Okay, for this lecture, we are still talking about the connective tissue. So, as we said earlier in the previous connective tissue lesson, wherein we primarily focused on the most basic or normal or more classic type of connective tissue, our loose versus dense, our embryonal, etc. For this topic, we will be talking about the more solid um, members of our connective tissue family, the more rigid, the more tough ones. So, yes, we are gonna be talking about our supportive type of connective tissue for this lecture topic. Okay, so as we can see in the same image, previously we talked about the fibrous connective tissues, the tendons, the ligaments, the loose connective tissues, the ones with more cells and the ones with more fibers, etc. This time we will be talking about a different type of connective tissue. We will be now moving on to the specialized version. Okay, it's quite special because again, the primary physical characteristic of this connective tissue would be the hardiness or the relative rigidity of these tissues as compared with the other major types of tissue and the other more classical regular quote unquote connective tissue. Okay, so yes, this time around we will be talking about this, no? The type of connective tissue which is usually found in areas of the body which needs more support than usual. For example, such as this section through the trachea, which always needs to be open. The airway should be open, thus it needs a sturdy cartilage tissue lining its walls. Okay, but of course, it's not just the supportive connective tissue that we can see here. Actually, we can see other loose type, other more classical type of connective tissue here. And then we have the adipose tissue. And then we will also have our reticular connective tissue here. And then other types of tissue that we have already talked about, epithelial tissue, somewhere in here. And then later on, we will talk about these other types of tissue on the outside part. But at least we are slowly characterizing the types of tissue that composes our organs. Okay. So in this photo, we can see that again, for today's topic, we will be talking about this part, the hard, rigid, but somewhat still flexible for other types of supportive connective tissue. Of course, it still has your regular fibrous connective tissue on the outside part in the form of the covering of the bone or cartilage, and the other tissues here, which is your skeletal, your skeletal or specific skeletal type of muscle tissue, we will be talking about more later on. But yes, you still have your epithelial tissue somewhere in this area, and what's inside this is another type of special tissue that is hematopoietic or and blood in general again. This one we'll be talking about in another video topic. Okay, but for today, let's focus about this one and this ones. Okay, so again, for this type of connective tissue, the type of cells is mostly chondro and osteo. Chondro for cartilage, osteo for bone. And as what we have said earlier, different resident cells in cartilage and in bone will have different um, ending parts depending on their function and action. The chondrocyte blast class and osteocyte blast class. Okay, so it's very easy. Cyte would be the mature form, resting form, endpoint. Blast will be the ones which is usually more active and still producing either cartilage or bone matrix, and clast will be the one that is for remodeling because clast means to eat to eat excess or extra cartilage or bone. Okay? For the fibers, it's mainly collagen and elastic type of fibers within your cartilage and bone. Okay? While for the ground substance, last time we talked about the ground substance in your regular quote unquote or classical or proper quote unquote type of connective tissue wherein the ground substance is somewhere in the middle or jelly like. This time, the ground substance in your supportive type of special connective tissue is more on the solid uh, type or solid nature. Okay? Which makes sense, right? Because your bone and your cartilage are relatively one of the most sturdy, rigid, and hard tissues in the body. Okay? For the connective tissue function, your bone and tissue will be the ones mainly for support and framework. Okay? Again, we have cartilage and bone. For cartilage, we have three basic types. No, it's very easy, and these three basic types of cartilage are very easy to distinguish from each other histologically because they have really somewhat different functionalities as well. Okay. For the bone, we have compact bone and spongy bone. And the thing about the naming of your cartilage and bone, they're like named based on how they look like. Okay, so it's very easy. First, let's talk about the cartilage. Okay, here you have three types of cartilage. Again, they are named based on how they look like. So for hyaline cartilage, hya means glass or clear. Okay, so hyaline cartilage, um, the first word of the cartilage basically describes the quality or the appearance of the extracellular matrix. Okay, or the material in between your cells. In the case of cartilage, they will be called your chondrocytes. Okay? So for the hyaline cartilage, it has a glassy appearance and no distinct fibers are observed. Okay? And hyaline cartilage is the most abundant type, most common type of cartilage. And whenever we say actually cartilage, this is the type of cartilage that we are usually talking about. Okay? These are the ones that you would see in your trachea, okay, and then other developing parts of your bone system. Usually, later we'll talk about how um, some types of bone uh, actually needs a cartilage template before becoming actual bone. So the cartilage template, the specific type would be your hyaline cartilage, okay? So glassy-like because the collagen fibers here are of type 2. Actually, all three of them would have your type 2 collagen fibers, which is basically composed of very fine uh, fine fibers. That's why they're not easily seen. And its refractile properties is almost the same as the ground matrix. That's why it is the same color, so it looks like as if they're not there. Okay? So clear looking ground substance in between your chondrocytes located in the lacuna. So the containers containing either your chondrocytes or later your osteocytes are called your lacuna, if more than one lacunae. And another interesting formation that is quite characteristic in the hyaline type of cartilage would be the presence of isogenous groups, wherein sometimes in one lacuna there would be more than one chondrocyte inside. What else? Other terms that is used for cartilages would be the territorial matrices or the matrix or the ground substance that is usually darkly staining and located more near your chondrocytes or nests or isogenous groups. And the so that would be your territorial, and then you would have your interterritorial matrices or the ones that are not near any lacuna or nests or isogenous nests or those lacuna containing multiple chondrocytes inside. Okay. Next, for the fibrocartilage, the fibrocartilage contains, from its name, a lot of extra type 1 collagen. Okay. The type 1 collagen, it is quite different from type 2 collagen because it is more rigid and not as flexible as the type 2. It has type 2 as well, but it has additional, more type 1 as well. While your hyaline and elastic do not have these extra, more abundant type 1. Only fibrocartilage has a lot of type 1 cartilage fibers, collagen fibers. That's why you can see these bundles, thick bundles of collagen fibers in fibrocartilage as opposed to the very thin type 2 collagen fibers. Okay? Actually, your fibrocartilage will definitely look like your DWFCT, dense white fibrous collagen fibers, dense white fibrous connective tissue, sorry, or your tendon. It will look like a piece of your tendon, but instead of abundance of fibroblasts, you would see rows of chondrocytes in the lacuna. Okay, this is the characteristic feature of your fibrocartilage. Well, of course, aside from the very, very dense rows of type 1 collagen fibers, thick collagen fibers, you would have rows of um, chondrocytes, okay? So no isogenous groups whatsoever because they don't have any space to form clumps, no? So they will be forced to go into rows, okay? In between the thick bundles of type 1 collagen fibers, okay? Next, we have finally our elastic cartilage. Just like your elastic connective tissue, the elastic cartilage is elastic, okay? Because it has, aside from the default type 2 collagen fibers, this time instead of type 1, which is primarily seen in fibrocartilage, in the elastic cartilage, there is an abundance of, all coming from its name, elastic fibers, okay? And it is usually visible when stained with a special stain, right? Of course, just like with the elastic connective tissue, the elastic cartilage will still need a special stain in order to visualize the elastic fibers. The key difference between hyaline and elastic cartilage, if the fibers are not um, visualized by special stains, there are not much or next to absent isogenous groups or clumping of chondrocytes. Okay, so hyaline cartilage is majority of the cartilage. This is usually the cartilage that is seen capping the long bones in order to form joints. Fibrocartilage is the one that's usually connecting hyaline cartilage in the vertebra. Okay, so this is not as bendy, but it needs to be very rigid so it can support your body weight, right? While the elastic cartilage, where can we see this? Where can we see the most elastic, most bendable type of cartilage? Somewhere in your ears, right? So try to touch your ears and try to bend it, and then it will instantly go back to its original form, right? So it's because of the elastic fibers. Histologically, they look like this. Again, glassy, clear in-betweens or ground matrices. While in a fibrocartilage, here in this fibrocartilage, although there are not a lot of a collagen fibers, thick type 1 collagen fibers, you can still see that there are fibers because the chondrocytes have no choice but to arrange themselves into rows, okay? Because of the densely packed fibers. While in the elastic cartilage, of course, it's very easily identifiable because the elastic fibers are um, very characteristic, very fine and darkly staining under the special stain. Okay, again, this is another schematic diagram. Again, you can see in this preparation, again, the in-betweens or the ground substance or matrix wherein your chondrocytes are embedded, they greatly differ in the different types of cartilages. Glassy and clear, almost, I'd like to say transparent, like in your hyaline cartilage, full of chunky, thick collagen fibers, type 1, additional type 1 fibers in fibrocartilage, And again, the characteristic um, chondrocytes arranged in a row. While in your elastic cartilage, there's a lot of elastic fibers in the embedded in the ground matrix. Okay. Again, the darker areas near your chondrocytes or lacuna would be your territorial matrix, and the in-between would be your interterritorial matrix. Again, guys, when trying to distinguish your cartilages from your fibrous connective tissue, which we discussed previously, try to look for the presence of chondrocytes. If there are chondrocytes, then most likely it is a type of cartilage. Okay? How does cartilage tissue develop? It does so in two ways, no? You have your interstitial way and the appositional way. And this is easily remembered because it's just basically a description of the process, okay? So, for the interstitial growth, it basically happens in the middle part, in the central part of any cartilage, wherein there is growth in between tissue or the cellular components. There is an increase in the amount of matrix, this gray thing in between the chondrocytes. And eventually, from chondrocytes that are nearer to each other, because of the deposition of the additional matrix, they will eventually be farther away from each other, and there will be considerable growth in the central area. Okay? While for the appositional growth, coming from its name, positional, there will be an addition, an apposition of layers by layers in the outer part or the outer edges or the periphery of your cartilage organ. And both of these appositional and interstitial growth can actually be seen in the same cartilage tissue. So, in the middle part, you would have your interstitial growth, wherein eventually, if this cartilage was to become more developed, there will be more matrices here, the center, and it will eventually become thicker from the middle part, from the inside, from within the tissue, interstitial, while it can also have appositional growth from the outside area at the periphery. So, you can see here in the perichondrium or the fibrous connective tissue covering the um, cartilage. So, peri around chondro cartilage. So you would see that some of the cells will eventually become chondrogenic and eventually form or turn into new layers of cartilage. So this part would have your appositional growth and this part as well, while this part will have interstitial growth. What about the bone? Okay. For the bone, we have just two basic types, compact and spongy. Okay. And this compact and spongy type of bone can be seen in the same bone. Both compact and spongy bone can be seen in the long bone at the same time as well in flat bones. Okay? So the compact type of bone is usually seen on the along the length of the long bone and along the outer edges of a flat bone. While the central area, which basically looks like a sponge, does the term spongy bone, and this area as well is your spongy bone. Okay, depending on the type of bone, you would have a different type of bone development, but we will talk about that later. First, let's characterize the compact bone versus the spongy bone histologically. Okay? For the compact bone, basically, so this would be the edge or the outer compact areas of your long bone or flat bone. So this part, this part, this part, and this part. Okay? So, compact bone, coming from its term, is compact. It doesn't have any spaces in between. So, it's compact because the deposition of the matrix, which is very solid, and this time it is mineralized, no, specifically with calcium. That's why it's really hard. Um, there is no uh, extra space in the compact bone, unlike in your spongy bone. Okay, this is so because the deposition of this compact bone happens in layers, aka lamella. So you would see that in the compact bone, you would have different styles of layering. You would have the concentric layers, like this one, so-called your concentric lamellae. And then you would have your circumferential lamellae like this one, which is usually found in the periphery of the whole cross-section of the bone or the compact bone. And then in between your circumferential and concentric lamellae arrangement, you will also have your interstitial arrangement. Okay? And then these concentric lamellae actually, one structure is also termed as the osteon. So the osteons are basically like the building blocks of your compact bone. And you would notice that since the ground substance is quite hard, it will be difficult for nutrients to readily diffuse through it, no? Unlike in your cartilage, it can still do so, so it doesn't need the help of um, vascular structures or vessels, no? So in the bone, even though it is compact, it still has to have these holes or um, pipe-like structures within its osteons in order for the osteocytes housed in the lacuna, this one, to communicate and get still be able to get nutrients. So since the matrix is so sturdy, it needs to have a canals, no, in order to house these blood vessels. Okay, so the canals which are found in the center of each osteon, which is oriented parallel to the length of the lung bone, is called your central canal. Okay, aka Haversian canal. So Haversian is just named after the first person who first described it. And then you would also have the canals that would connect one Haversian canal to another canal. So this would be your perforating canal, aka your Volkmann's canal. Okay, again, Volkmann is the person who first described it. Okay, so you would have your, and then the orientation of the central canal versus this Volkmann's canal or transverse canal will differ depending on the, if your bone tissue fragment was cut cross-sectionally or longitudinally. Okay, so be very, very careful. Anyway, it's very easy to determine if the section was cut cross-sectionally because you would be able to see the donut concentric shape of your concentric lamellae within your osteons. Otherwise, if you cannot see this and you can just see this long rows of osteons, then most probably it was cut longitudinally. Okay? So you just have to really master this schematic diagram, then you wouldn't have any problem. Okay? Again, the central, if you see circular structures like this, then it's cross-sectional. Okay? So again, this would be one osteon. This would be the lacuna housing your osteocytes. Okay? And then central canal, and then one central canal to another central canal is a transverse canal, named after Volkmann, named after, I don't know, Haber. Anyway, it's Haversian. Okay? And then, as you can see here, in each lacuna containing your osteocyte, there are like cracks originating from it, okay? These are not actually artifacts, these are actual structures. This is what you call your canaliculi, small canals, okay, which houses the processes of your osteocytes, which is integral for the communication between one osteocyte to another osteocyte, okay? So, again, another more zoomed in version, again, you would see your canaliculi, the cracks coming out from the small canals coming out of your lacuna, which houses your osteocytes. And again, since we can see circular structures of your osteon containing your concentric laminae, then we know that this is a cross section. So this would be your haversian or central canal. This is another haversian or central canal, and the connection between the two is your transverse or Volkmann's canal. This photo clearly shows more canaliculi. Okay, and here is the zoomed in version of your central canal. Next, let's go to the spongy bone. For the spongy bone, the parts are not as complicated as your compact bone because there is no distinct lamellar patterns that need another naming system, okay? In the case of your spongy bone, you just have an irregular trabeculae or islands of bone matrix, okay? But still, you will have your osteocytes located in lacuna, but they are just randomly placed, embedded within your bone trabecula or spicules. And this time, it is easier to see osteoblasts. They are the plump cells lining the edges of your bone trabecula. And then you would also have your osteoclasts. And earlier we talked about this. Blasts would basically produce the bone matrices. They would expand this bone trabecula or spicules. Cytes are the resting osteogenic cells. So osteocytes already, so these osteoblasts, if they are already done producing the bone matrix, then they will eventually go inside it and become embedded, and that will be their fate, okay? While the osteoclasts, they are basically the macrophages of your bone tissue, and you can usually see them also somewhere lining here the edge of your bone trabecula, and they usually function during remodeling, wherein they would eat excess bone material or matrix whenever it is needed. And the telltale sign of your osteoclast will be the presence of these depression, like a cookie bite out of the bone, and this is what you will call your Hauschiff's lacuna. Okay? Because this would be your normal lacuna containing your osteocytes. But this part, this would be your Hauschiff's lacuna. So I hope you can see actual Hauschiff's lacuna in the laboratory. Okay? So again, spongy bone here, spicules, and then here is compact bone. Again, you would have different names for your compact bone, a lot of structures because of the presence of lamellae. Okay? Okay, so for the development of the bone, there's also, again, two types, but the names are different from your cartilage because the way how it is, the process is different as well. Okay? For the bone, we have intramembranous, which basically means development of bone between the two membranes. The two membranes would be your periosteum, or basically your fibrous connective tissue, which is the counterpart of your perichondrium in your bone. So it's the periosteum. So the ossification comes from mesenchymal cells, and then eventually these mesenchymal cells will become osteoblasts, and these osteoblasts will eventually make this type of bone, which is spongy. Okay, so this type of bone development is usually seen in flat bones, such as, where can we find flat bones? Yes, in the skull. Where else? In the ribs, okay? This would be your flat bones. So again, you would have your bone spicules developing from your mesenchymal connective tissue, okay? So it's basically the creation of bone out of nothing, out of mesenchymal tissue, okay? While endochondral is actually the creation of bone within a initial hyaline cartilage. So, this is usually seen in the epiphysis or epiphyseal plate of your long bones, no? So, this part. So this part is actually a snapshot of an endochondral type of ossification. And you will learn, if you have already read your course notes, that there are actually this site of endochondral ossification, or your epiphyseal plate, is actually divided into 5 zones. And these 5 zones are just basically named based on what is happening on their specific zones. Okay? Um, it's not really important to memorize them, because of course you would have choices in the exam, but what I want you to understand is that the different parts is basically like a gradual change from a cartilage type of connective tissue to the eventual replacement of this cartilage through calcification into becoming bone. Okay, so that's why you will see that there is some area here, especially in the part of zone of cell hypertrophy, the chondrocytes become so big while their lacuna walls become so thin, because eventually they will be deposited with calcium and become bone. This zone of cell hypertrophy is really interesting because in some diseases wherein there is an abnormal um, rate of bone development, this area would be very big because a lot of the cartilage is becoming bone quickly. But because of that, since the walls of the lacuna is very thin, this area is very prone to breakage. Okay, so again, it is a reminder that some areas of your body or organ system may be prone to more become easily susceptible to mechanical damage because of how it looks like under the microscope. Again, it is a perfect example of how histology is basically physiology visualized. Okay? Hopefully, in the laboratory, we have a lot of slide sections through the long bone, through the epiphyseal plate. Try to determine where these 5 zones are, okay? And the most important thing is if you see these 5 zones, you know that there is an endochondral type of ossification going on. And it is uh, almost always seen in the long bones. This is how long bones develop. Okay. Because for flat bones, it's usually the intramembranous type. Okay. So that's it for the supportive type of connective tissue. So don't forget to sign the attendance form. Okay. Thank you.